Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Now that the chief has arrived, we can begin our meeting. Welcome to the Williamsburg City Council meeting of October 9th. Ms. McKay, would you call the roll, please?
Ms. Williams.
Here.
Ms. Ramsey.
Here.
Mayor Pons.
Here.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Here.
Ms. Kernshire. Here.
Okay. In our packets, we have meeting minutes from the Williamsburg City Council work session of September 8th and the City Council meeting of September 11th. Any changes, corrections, alterations, any motions to approve?
So I move that we approve the minutes from the work session on September the 8th and the business meeting on September the 11th.
Thank you. Mr. Second. Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernshire. Aye.
Okay, next is a matter of special privilege. This is an opportunity for City Council to recognize a city employee for outstanding service to the city. And so, Ms. Wade, if you join me at the, if you join me at the podium. It's good to see you. You too. So, this is Ms. Wake. Lisa Wake has faithfully and honorably served the citizens of Williamsburg for 6 years. She began her career in the city of Williamsburg as a utility billing specialist, where she continuously provided outstanding customer service to all city residents on a daily basis. Through hard work and dedication, she was promoted to utility billing supervisor, where she eagerly took on leadership role. In addition to her assigned duties, Lisa has consistently been willing to assist where needed and has endeavored to acquire new skills. In our recent transition to from quarterly to monthly billing, Lisa demonstrated every quality of excellence in service here in the city of Williamsburg. With a positive and proactive attitude, she approached significant operational changes as an opportunity to improve customer experience. Her cooperative spirit was evidenced as she brought together multiple departments and outside agencies, ensuring open communications and seamless coordinations with shared goals. What truly sets her apart is her personal initiative and leadership. She didn't wait for her colleagues' challenges to arise, she anticipated them. By proactively testing every conceivable scenario, she minimized potential disruption and ensured that customers had the necessary information and support throughout the transition. Her goal was to avoid confusion or frustration among the public while building trust and transparency in our utility services. Her ability to improve the quality of service through collaboration and strategic execution deserves recognition. The success of this project reflects her excellent job performance and unwavering commitment to public service. Her capacity to lead with both competence and compassion. So, on behalf of Williamsburg City Council, here's a certificate to express our appreciation, and you get a nice plaque.
Thank you so much.
Certainly will.
Thank you, Mayor Pons and City Council. It's an honor not only to receive this award, but also to work for the city and with such a great team. I would like to give a special thank you to Michelle Wilson, as I could not have done this project without her. I would also like to thank my teammate in utility billing, Hannah, as well as all of my fellow teammates in the finance department for all of your support during this project. And thank you so much for my family and friends for coming out today to support me. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, takes us now to public hearings. First public hearing is consideration and action regarding PCR number 25-008, proposing an amendment to the zoning ordinance to update the definition of vape shops and retail, and require retail or other establishments that sell tobacco, hemp, vape products to obtain a special use permit. Mr. Wong, welcome.
Good afternoon. Today's staff is presenting a city-initiated zoning text amendment to clarify the city's existing regulations related to the land use and sale of vape, tobacco, and hemp products. provide a little bit of background, the purpose of this request is to protect the community character of Williamsburg by ensuring that establishments that sell tobacco vape products do go through the public hearing process and are not located adjacent to incompatible uses, namely daycare centers and schools. And to provide a little more details on the amendment, so currently within these business zoning districts, vape shops are permitted as a special use permit. And this amendment would clarify that establishments in these districts that choose to sell tobacco and vape products are required to obtain a special use permit, and that those establishments are not allowed to be located within 1,000 linear feet of a child day center or a public, private, or parochial school. And currently we have this adopted language here in the zoning ordinance, which lays out that a vape and smoke shop is an establishment that sells this plethora of products that are related to hemp and vape and tobacco. And we do have this sentence that states that drugstores, grocery stores, and convenience stores are not required to get a special use permit if they're selling those products as not as a primary part of their business. And that's not as clear as it could be, because that creates a situation where a prospective business could come in and claim that they are a convenience store that just happens to sell vape products as an incidental part of the business, but we don't have a definition for primary purpose, which means you could end up with a business use that's essentially operating as a vape shop that bypassed the special use permit process. And of course, one of the main intentions of having this as a specially permitted use is to make sure that the public can weigh in on the topic and that city staff can provide conditions and weigh this against the comprehensive plan. So our proposal is to amend the language to simply state that if you're an establishment that's selling tobacco, hemp, or vape products, you are required to obtain a special use permit. We've also included language that states that you're not permitted to do this within 1,000 linear feet of a child day center or a public, private, or parochial school, because we find those uses to be incompatible. One of the main concerns that was raised at the Planning Commission stage was the impact of this proposal on existing businesses within the city. So I do want to say that existing lawfully permitted businesses that are selling these products within the city will not be required to obtain a special use permit or be subject to the 1,000-foot requirement. They are grandfathered under our zoning ordinance. Two of the other positive impacts from this amendment is it'll provide clarity to the citizens and businesses within the city over what process they do need to follow should they choose to sell these products. And this also makes sure that the public hearing process does happen so that the public can weigh in and so that the city can provide conditions and maintain the community character of the city overall. So staff's recommendation is that City Council approve this proposal, and in September at the regular meeting, the Planning Commission also recommended approval by a vote of 5-1. I do want to say that one of the motions they made was that we include language within the LB1 zoning district that clarifies that you're not allowed to sell vape products there. That's already the case, but the Planning Commission wanted us to provide language that accentuated that. So staff went ahead and included that, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the presentation. Help me understand better, maybe I misunderstood you. Talking about these products being sold as a primary business, I think I understand that. We've had several vape shops in the city, and most of them are gone, and their primary merchandise that they sold were these products. And so that's easy for me to understand what we're talking about. But when you talk about other retail outlets that sell a multiple of other stuff, and vape and tobacco would just be a smaller component, that is still allowed? Or would they, if a CVS wanted to locate in the city, and I don't know if CVS sells vapes, but I think they sell other tobacco products, they'd be required to get a special apply for a special use permit as well?
Yes, sir, they would be. If this were approved, they would have to go through that extra step, only if they were choosing to sell those products. That's correct.
Okay, so no matter the size of the store, the number of items that they sell in the store, if you choose to sell vape products, you have to come and get a special use permit.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
That's a gas station even.
Yes.
Thank you. I don't have any other questions. Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Weissong. I appreciate the clarity in this ordinance. My question is similar. If a business decides not to go through the SUP process, how does the city identify that, and then what's the process to enforce this if it's approved?
Sure. So this would apply for new businesses that are coming into the city. So if an existing permitted business is selling vape products and we received a complaint about it, the zoning administrator would look at when that use was permitted and determine if they're grandfathered or not. But in the future, if a business started selling vape products in one of these districts without a special use permit and it came to staff's attention, they would be sent a notice letting them know that they're in violation, and they would have to go through the process of obtaining a special use permit, or they'd have to stop selling those products.
So most of the enforcement will typically come through complaints from a citizen, someone that visited the business?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Or we would evaluate a new proposal at the application stage. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, thank you. I was wondering, could you go to the slide that has the proposed language on it? I just have a question about, yeah, the other way. It might be easier if everybody saw what I was talking about. That right there, that one. My question is, in the first sentence, it says the sale of tobacco, hemp, or vape products is provided in 18.2, yada, 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 and any, requires a SUP. But then the second sentence says the sale of tobacco products, but it doesn't say hemp or vape products, but it cites the same section of the code. Are these intended to capture the same universe of things? Because the first sentence says tobacco, hemp, or vape requires an SUP, but the second sentence just says that the sale of tobacco products is prohibited within 1,000 linear feet of a child daycare center.
Yes, the intention is that that addresses the same issue.
Okay, then I would propose that the language then should be the same in both sentences.
It is the same.
Yeah.
The definition in the state code is extraordinarily long and contains a plethora of products that include hemp, vape, and tobacco.
Right.
So all of those products are contained in that same definition.
Okay, I think the confusing part is just that the same as defined by 18.2, 37.1.2 is cited in both, so I just didn't know if that, like, why the difference, but, okay.
Is that it?
Ms. Ramsey?
So, thank you. And my question sort of goes along with the others. So, I think you said at the beginning that when we had done this before, it was for a business whose primary business was selling vape, tobacco products, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is to prevent sort of the, what do you call it, the nose under the tent, or
Doug nose under the tent, camel's nose.
the camel's nose under the tent, so that someone might say, well, my primary business is not selling tobacco, et cetera, and then all of a sudden someone goes in there and 70% of their shelves are taken up with these products. So obviously it's become their primary business. So I get all of that. And as you and I talk coming in the door, it's an extremely long ordinance, and this is to clarify one little bit of it, and I thank you for that. So getting to my question is, what happens for a grandfathered business that all of a sudden's primary business turns to this, to vape, tobacco, and whatever? So a little convenience gas station, you know, somewhere in the city, when you walk in now, it's got chips and soda and all that stuff, and 6 months down the road, you walk in and it's got hemp and tobacco and vape and whatever else goes along with it.
Yeah, that's an excellent question. Without having the specifics of the store, it's a little bit difficult to answer. I would say we would evaluate how much of a change of a use had been put in place to make it a determination. I hesitate a little bit to make a legal judgment about whether we would determine if that's a non-conforming use or not. But the best I can say is we'd have to evaluate how much of a change it was and then meet with the city's attorney's office to make a judgment there.
Well, hopefully that won't occur, but, you know, to be sort of the devil's advocate, I can see where it might. So that was the only thing I I wanted to ask about.
Well, thank you for the information. I had a question along Vice Mayor Dent's question. Could you provide more clarity around, I guess, enforcement coming through complaints and kind of walking us through just once more how the special use permit would work?
Sure. So we operate much of our zoning enforcement on a complaint-driven basis. So if a business is perceived to be operating in a way that's not lawful and we receive a complaint, the zoning administrator would go out and investigate to determine what's going on and would go through that process. And if it was found that there was evidence that there was a zoning issue, she would issue a letter and reach out to the property owner to work through that issue. The special use permit process is about a 3 to 6 month process, and essentially within the zoning district, as you know, there are certain uses that we think are so impactful, we believe they merit going through the public hearing process. And so if a business decided that they wanted to sell these products, we're not saying no. They would just have to go through the process of applying for a special use permit, and then we would schedule a public hearing before the Planning Commission and the City Council. And so it would go through the public hearing process. Staff would be able to analyze the application in light of the impacts, the location, and the comprehensive plan. And then the applicant would have an opportunity to present their case as well. So that's essentially the SUP process.
And if I could jump in, the other benefit of the SCP process is that City Council is able to impose conditions on that use. And so City Council could impose conditions that limits the amount of these products that can be sold, either by square footage in the store or by percentage of sales.
For the clarification.
Yes.
But I think Ms. Ramsey brings up an interesting point. If there's an existing business selling these products and it's only 1% of their inventory, they see demand changes, and that percentage of these products that we're trying to require a special use permit become more prevalent in that store, maybe it's 50% or 75%. What can we do about that in this current ordinance? Is there a way to I mean, it would change the use, but if it's kind of I think there's a little, it's obviously a little fuzzy area there.
There's only so much we can do about nonconforming uses. If a business was not a vape or a smoke shop and enough of their business became vape or smoke shops, that's a change of use. And that would require coming back to the City Council and getting an SCP. One of the reasons why we're requesting this change is because we're looking at convenience stores and drug stores, and someone can write convenience store on their application and then sell a significant amount of this product and not the typical things that one finds in a convenience store, and then we're in a position where it's not clear what the percentage needs to be. I can't tell you that any particular situation would be handled a particular way because it's going to be fact-specific, right? If 75% of the business suddenly becomes selling vape, we're going to call that a primary use. And this ordinance or version of it has been in place now for several years. But as with any other grandfathered use, we just have to look at it that way.
Can I?
And,
Oh, yeah,
and,
go ahead.
and to follow on, would a complaint have to be filed for zoning or anyone to look into a change in their business use?
Well, if the zoning administrator walks into a store that is selling this kind of product, no, we don't need a complaint.
I have a follow-up question as well.
Sure.
I think, maybe I'm getting a little confused, but the point of this it doesn't matter if it's 1% or 50% or 75% because it's no longer about primary use. So if you're not selling it at all, and all of a sudden there's one row, now there is. And so is there really I think I'm getting lost as to why it matters what the primary use is anymore.
So it matters right now.
Right,
because-
I understand it matters right now, but I'm saying, wouldn't this eliminate that?
But we would have to determine the change of use, right? So if it's an existing grandfathered convenience store that has been selling vape products and tobacco for the last 15 years, that's
Right.
the situation that I think you're alluding to. They would have to sell enough of it to change their use from a convenience store to a vape shop. And we would still be in that primary versus secondary use for purposes of that analysis.
Okay, so this, I think maybe I was got a little twisted up here. So even this preserves the definition of vape shop that we currently have, it just adds this to it?
So since we adopted the original ordinance, the state has adopted language that defines this product. So we're adopting the state code language. That's a change. And the 1,000 linear feet from a daycare center was also last year's bill, so that's also a change. Otherwise, if you had a convenience store yesterday that sold vape, you're still going to operate under, you're still going to be grandfathered. If I open a convenience store that sells vape 10 days from now, you're going to be under this ordinance.
Okay, all right, I understand, thank you.
I don't have any other questions for Mr. Waisong. Okay, so I'll come back to, I'll open the public hearing. If anybody would like to come forward to speak to this, please come forward and do so. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing and I'll come back to council for comments, thoughts, considerations.
And I think it makes sense.
Yeah, so, I think it's appropriate, we've had bad luck with our previous vape shops, and I think the ordinance that we're working on, and it seems to be a work in progress, in trying to manage these products and the distribution of these products in the city, I think is important, and I think this is a good step to it. I think if we run into a situation where, this XYZ gas station who sells a few boxes of it starts to change its use, we'll have to address that then, and hopefully that's just not the case. Okay, is there any other thoughts, questions? Somebody like to make a motion?
So I move that City Council approve PCR 25-008.
Second.
Second, thank you. Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernscher.
Aye?
Okay, item B under public hearings is consideration and action regarding proposed ordinance 25-14 to request the General Assembly of the Commonwealth of Virginia at its 2026 session to amend Section 9, Chapter 1, Section 39 through 43 of Chapter 5, and the Section 55 of Chapter 7 for the Charter of the City of Williamsburg concerning the timing of elections and finance terms. Ms. Shelton.
So we have been holding off amending our charter as we watch the progress of the elections issue at the General Assembly. There have been bills that have tried to go back to the way that it used to be with May elections that have not received any traction. Last session, there was a bill to get rid of odd year elections. That did not pass, but I expect it will come back. It appears that having given it some time now, the overriding of the charter that requires November elections is probably permanent, and in that event, the city charter does need to be amended to reflect current state law. So the charter amendment that's in front of you makes that change from May election to November elections in even-numbered years. While we're taking that particular housekeeping issue, we looked at other places where some housekeeping also could be done in the charter, so we're not having to do that at a later date. One of the issues is that to recognize that the finance director's role is bigger than simply the finance director of the city. She also manages multiple funds for different outside agencies that are connected to the city, where the city holds the position as the fiscal agent. We think it's appropriate to amend the title of the finance director to the chief financial officer, but ensure that she still has the authority of a finance director in the state code. And finally, with respect to budgeting, Section 55 talks about moving unencumbered balances within departments or agencies. That's not really how we budget. We budget within funds, and so this changes the terminology to reflect that we have funds. So the general fund, or the capital improvement fund, or the tourism fund. This allows the city manager, as he has the ability to do right now, to move unencumbered balances within those funds. So it just corrects the language that's used in an old version of the charter to more updated language. The state requires this to be advertised twice and be up for a public hearing, which is what we are doing today. We have the affidavit of publication, which we will be required when we submit this to the General Assembly, should City Council adopt the ordinance. The next step is, should City Council adopt the ordinance, to present it to our legislative delegation.
Questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll move on to the public hearing, and if anybody would like to come forward and talk about these matters, please do so. Seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll come back for comments from council, and I'll just kick it off. This term is really used as housekeeping. I think the dates of election cycles, as Ms. Shelton points out, is pretty well set now, and if there is a change in the legislation, we'll have to make another adjustment in the future. And in terms of the terminology for the finance department, I'm perfectly comfortable with that as well. Mr. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, all of these things are taking place already. This is just updating the charter to reflect what currently takes place, so support it.
No further comment.
So, thank you. I just had one question. I think you mentioned that these have to be advertised twice. So since we talked about these on Monday, is this the second time, or will it need to come before us again for
No,
that second
it
time?
has to be advertised in the Virginia Gazette or another local paper twice for this public hearing. That has been done. The affidavit
Okay.
is in the file, so we've taken all the steps that we need to take for City Council to act on this today.
All right, thank you for the clarification.
I have no further.
If there's nothing else, would somebody like to make a motion?
So I move that City Council adopt proposed ordinance 25-14 and direct the city attorney to present the ordinance to the city's legislative delegation.
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams,
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey,
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent,
Aye.
Ms. Kernscher.
Aye.
Okay, that moves us forward to the monthly financial statement. Chief Financial Officer Dameron?
Good afternoon, and today we're looking over the September finances. I'm going to start with the 1% sales tax, and so you can see there is of September fiscal year 26, we're at 471,000, which is a 6.4% decrease compared to September year-to-date fiscal year 25. Just to give you an idea, well, first of all, let me remind you, we're looking at 1 month of data, right? Because there's a 2-month lag, so this information reflects July activity. But if we go back and look at the history a little bit, we came out of COVID in September of 23, we were showing a 22% increase. And then comparing September year-to-date for fiscal year 24 to 23, we saw a 2.1% decrease. Yet by year end, when we compare the annual data for 24 versus 23, we ended up with a 4% increase. And then comparing September of fiscal year 25 to September of fiscal year 24, we see just a slight increase, like 0.3%. Yet at the end of the year, we finished with 1.3. So we're not exactly establishing a trend yet. I do say, we need to monitor this as we move forward during the year. And then looking at our local taxes, starting with our room tax. September year-to-date for room tax was $822,000. Compared to September of fiscal year 25, that's a 2.8% increase. Now, we have, as I mentioned last month, we have really been working on delinquent collections. So I will tell you there's some delinquent collection money in that. I would say when I pull that out, we're about level right now with last year. And then on our meals tax, we're at almost 1.7 million September year-to-date fiscal year 26, which is a 3.1% over fiscal increase over fiscal year 25. Again, there's some delinquency in there, not quite as much as in the room tax. I would say when I pull that out, we're running about 2% ahead of last year. And then looking at our $2, our tourism taxes, starting with the $2. Our $2 lodging tax is at $225,000 September year-to-date. And keep in mind, these taxes are 1 month lag, so I basically have 2 months of data here. Compared to FY .25, it's showing about a 15.9% increase. Again, the delinquencies are in there. When I pull that data out, we're about 3.5% ahead of last year. And then looking at the historic sales tax, we're at $209,000 September year-to-date, and compared to fiscal year '25, that's a 7.7% decrease. Again, that trend that I showed you with the sales tax holds true. That first month that we're looking at, it's not necessarily a trend yet. When we look back historically, we see that. So again, we have to continue to monitor that as the year progresses. In terms of our general fund expenditures, they're in line with budget. Is the revenue and the expenditures for the utility fund are trending as I would expect. So no other significant news to report on, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dammer. I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Dammer. No question.
None for me, thank you.
None for me, thank you.
Thank you.
There we go.
Okay, takes us now to monthly departmental operating reports. Mr. Trivett, who's in the barrel?
We're going to hear from IT this month, and I think he's going to talk to us about AI.
All right.
Just what you all wanted to talk about today. Good afternoon, Mayor Pons and members of council. Today, I am going to talk to you about artificial intelligence in the city and what we're doing organizationally within the realm of all of this. So first part of this that we're working on, a lot of this is going to be governance, and then we'll talk a little bit about projects. Policy development, we are actively developing this policy. The policy really hones in on acceptable use by employees. We're trying to really stress the ideals of transparency, accountability, fairness, and privacy in terms of usage of AI throughout the entire city. And it focuses in on activities that are allowed versus activities that are not allowed when you're using any type of platform within doing your job in terms of what you're allowed to do versus what you're not. We're also going to talk a little bit about employee training. That's going to be a key component to it so that employees understand the policy, they understand what they can do, what they can't do, how all of this works, what's monitored, what's not, all of that. And then lastly, we're going to document all of our usage, any type of AI system, whether it's a standalone, think ChatGPT or something like that, versus an AI component that's built into an existing system that an employee might use. And then all of this rolls into the personnel manual, as does all of our policies. The big work that we're doing, and we've been working on this for 4 or 5 months, and we've probably got another 4 or 5 months at least, is a portfolio and compliance assessment project. We're working with our consultancy, Infotech Research Group. We do a lot of work with them. What we're trying to do is develop this portfolio and then develop compliance documentation for all of these systems. So we're currently evaluating 2. Those are Microsoft 365 Copilot and CityBot, which is our multi-language chatbot that's on the city website. We are in the process, and we've completed it on 1. The assessments of these particular applications, and what we're looking at is what are the risks, any types of costs, and then benefits to the organization that these might provide. Out of this, we're developing this control framework that, again, allows us to focus really on the accountability, the transparency, the privacy, and the bias to ensure that all of these goals are met. Where we find deficiencies, we break those results down into initiatives so that we can then work on those and ensure that all of the goals are met across all of these systems. And then this type of work directly affects the policy. This really informs that policy moving forward. So a couple of systems that we're currently working with right now that we use, Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is the AI engine that is part of the Microsoft 365 ecosystem. The beauty of this one is that it is completely integrated with the entire Microsoft ecosystem. So Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all of that is built on top of this. So I put an example up there. This is a screen that you would find in Copilot. And it would ask you, in this scenario, what would you like to create? And that could be create me a professional Word document that does whatever whatever you're looking to do. Create a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet that analyzes this type of data, creates the formulas for you, all of that, and gives you feedback on how that's going to work. Or, and I'm not saying this is the case today, create a PowerPoint for a presentation to City Council. Not that I've done that, but you could do that as well. Next is CityBot. CityBot is, again, it's our multi-language AI-powered chatbot. We've had this in place for 5 or 6 years now. The primary goal of CityBot is to improve communications between the government and the citizens. It's always there, right? It lives on every page of the city website, 24/7, 365. The chatbot is there. It asks, you can ask it any kind of question. It'll answer it. If it can't, it'll allow you to send a message to staff, where then staff can then respond to that. You'll see in this example here, the question that I asked it was, who serves on the City Council in Williamsburg? And it goes and tells you that you're all elected at large, and it lists everybody that's currently on there. So just as an easy example. And then lastly, and probably the most exciting one is AI-powered crosswalks for pedestrian safety. So these crosswalks, they utilize AI to detect when people are approaching the crosswalks, and it activates it automatically without having to push the button, without having to do anything. They automatically activate. There's voice associated with it, so it will tell you there's cars approaching. The flashing lights that you would find on all the existing crosswalks now. And in the case of this, it will also illuminate. If it was at night, it would illuminate the entire stretch of that crosswalk. So if you're an oncoming car, not only do you see flashing lights, you see a very bright illuminated crosswalk right in the middle of the road. So we're currently planning for 3 in the city, the Richmond Road at the Wawa, Jamestown Road at Hearth, and then Jamestown Road at the Business School. And I've got a quick video. You'll see this gentleman walking up here. This is actually in Peachtree Corners, Georgia. He's going to walk up. The system's going to activate. See the flashing lights. I've got the sound turned down because there's a lot of background noise. You can see the car crosswalk. But you can also see how the crosswalk, and this is at dusk, so imagine this being at night and how well illuminated that crosswalk would be. So that's it for us for right now. I would say that the pace of change of AI is, I don't even know how to measure it, to be quite honest with you. It's significant. I've heard pundits and industry folks talk about this as being analogous to the dawn of the internet, and it's not hard. I don't think that's a huge stretch. So it's coming. It's here. It's coming quickly. So we're trying to get not only in front of it from a policy and a governance standpoint to make sure that systems that make sense for us organizationally, we can get those in place and in the hands of the employees where they can do what they need to do. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So thank you, Mr. Barham. This is a timely topic to present today because it is rapidly becoming more available. And the point that you made, which I think is probably most important for us, is to make sure that we're adopting policies and understanding what AI can do and be guarded against the nefarious components of AI, and making sure that our systems of governance are well managed. And for me, that's, as we sit here today, is absolutely critical. How we deploy that as it moves forward, I think, is another strategy, because there are a lot of benefits to it, and you enumerated some, but we're familiar with AI scrubbing budgets, and I mean, there's all sorts of things that AI can do, and so being able to understand how to deploy those strategies moving forward is important. But I think right now, protecting ourselves and making sure that we're using it smartly is absolutely critical. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Mark. I don't have any questions. I mean, it's amazing what AI can do, but it's also scary what AI can do. And unfortunately, you see a lot of people using it in negative ways. One particular incident I remember is a athletic director at a high school being fired, terminated, because someone created a video of him making these comments, and after a long investigation determined that it wasn't him. So there's people out there that are going to use it not for the power it has in a positive manner.
Absolutely.
To that, if I ever say something that I shouldn't, it's AI. It wasn't me. Ms. Gernstier?
I don't think I have any questions. As you were talking and going through the different aspects of initiatives and things that are happening, one part of my brain goes to the point of having, we were talking about earlier this week with the legislative priorities, like, playing offense and defense, kind of like how to use AI and, get in front and or as much as possible and be offensive with it and how we can use, but then also the defense, against things that can be a negative. But then the other part I was thinking about too was, like, how do you even categorize the areas in which you want to use it, or what we need to be thinking about? So, internal policies about how, like, as an internal organization, we may use it versus how do we harness AI to be, for the public facing, to maximize efficiencies or to provide, great customer service. And then also, how are there other buckets, like, of how we think about how to use it? And so I guess maybe I'm leading to a question is, how do you even begin, right, to have a systematic way of thinking about how we can make sure that we're approaching something that is so huge, right, that can be a blessing and a curse? How do you even think about how to categorize or organize a way of approaching it?
Sure, and I think we know what systems we have currently, and one of the best policies that we have in place is that there's not a bunch of silos out here in terms of departments. I want that, I want this, everything flows through us for purchasing. We have policies and procedures in place such that everything, the evaluation process of new or even updated systems, all flows through IT, and this becomes a key component to that, to ensure that we're not only capturing, but we're categorizing and organizing in the same manner across the board.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, and I appreciate all the work you're doing for this. As much as we might not like it, as you say, it's here, and we can't just be, head in the sand about it. So one thing that I would ask for I think for all of us that would be helpful is once all of this work is done, or to a point that it's ready to go in the personnel manual, that maybe we get an orientation or a tutorial, so that it would really help me at least to know what we've come up with, how it's being deployed, and perhaps how it might be of benefit to us as city council members as well.
Absolutely.
So, thank you.
Well, thank you for the information. It blows my mind how rapidly AI is being integrated across lots of different sectors. I had a question just concerning the regulatory, can't speak today, framework, especially in handling sensitive data, and also when we think of the external and internal uses as well. What's your thought process around?
So we have data classification systems in place, so we know where across the entire organization where sensitive data, whether that be publicly identifiable information, whether that be banking information, anything that is classified as sensitive, we know exactly where it is, we know where it lives, we know what system owns it, what person is in charge of it, all of that. So we have a really, really good handle on that. In this case, in terms of AI, we would have to carefully evaluate what access you're able to, what access the engine, if you will, is able to get into that level of data, and then we would evaluate that on a case-by-case basis.
Thank you. I also have an additional question, just out of curiosity. Have you looked at what other localities are doing, especially when it comes to integrating AI?
So I'm a member of an organization called ValGuide. It's essentially the CIOs across the state. this is probably the number one topic where we're all bouncing ideas off of each other and how are you doing this versus how we're doing that. So absolutely.
Thank you, Mr. Barr. Okay, city manager's report. Anything, Mr. Trivett?
None today.
Ms. Shelton, city
Nothing.
attorney's report?
Nothing.
Okay, takes us now to open forum, which is an opportunity for anybody in the audience to come forward and share some thoughts. Seeing none, I'll close the open forum. There's no unfinished business, which leads us now to new business. We have several items. First is the consideration and action regarding Resolution 25-18, authorizing pursuit of a community development planning grant for $75,000 from the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development. Ms. Griffin, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor Pons and members of City Council. A goal of the 22-23 GIO, under the vision of creating One Williamsburg, is to preserve affordable housing and to support residents' ability to age in place. 3 neighborhoods were chosen for us to consider, and one was Highland Park, the other Wales, and Crispus Attucks. Highland Park was chosen as the initial focus area because of the rising housing costs that we saw there and also the known gentrification that's happening in Highland Park. So the city is pursuing a planning grant through the Virginia Department of Housing and Community Development to assess the feasibility of a future housing rehab grant for Highland Park. If you remember, I was here last year asking you for the same resolution. Last year, we did apply for this grant. We were not successful. At the time, you could ask for a max of $100,000. DHCD has changed that amount now to $75,000. So we are attempting to get this grant again. So I'm just requesting that you pass a resolution giving me the, well, I don't know if it's me or Mr. Trivett, but I will push the button in order to apply for this grant for $75,000 for a planning grant for housing rehab study. Any questions? I'm happy to answer.
Oh, good, thank you, Ms. Griffin. Yeah, as you said, this is something we applied for a year ago, and unfortunately, we weren't successful, and I think there's if we were awarded the grant, we would be able to begin some planning and really help the neighborhood in ways that you've mentioned. So I fully support trying to move forward with this. Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Griffin. On last year's grant, do they provide any feedback that might enhance our opportunity to be awarded the grant?
No, it's just when the money runs out, the money runs out. So we're just trying to get it in. But that was it. There was nothing, they said the grant was, there's nothing wrong with the grant. It was done beautifully. So no issues there.
Okay, thank you.
I had the same question, so thank you.
So thank you, Ms. Griffin, for bringing this to our attention. So my question's a little different based on that. You said when the money runs out, hopefully they don't look at these alphabetically to determine who gets the
Submit
money.
A, Williamsburg.
But do you know sort of, I mean, obviously some people got the money last year. Is there any way to know why or why we didn't compared to who did? Or have you talked to any communities who got it to see
I
what
have
the
not talked to
difference
any,
might be?
I haven't talked to any communities that received it, but I did have a technical call with DHCD to determine if there was a reason why we did not get the grant, and the answer was no. It was simply that they have a pot of money, and it depends on how many grants come in. It's not by alphabetical order, first come, first serve, but we did talk to them to determine if we needed to make any changes to the grant, and the answer was no, we just needed to reapply during a certain window, and we're now in that window.
All right, well, hopefully second time will be the charm.
I agree.
Thank you for the information. I have a similar question to Ms. Ramsey. Is it evaluated on a rolling basis? You mentioned that it's first come, first serve. I just wanted to know if this is a matter of us applying too late or like a timing issue.
No, it's only open for 3 or 4 months during the year, so it's not, I don't know if you call it a rolling basis, but it's not competitive. So it's pretty much first come, first serve during a certain time of the year.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Anybody like to?
So I move that City Council approve Resolution 25-18 to apply for a community development planning grant for the Highland Park community.
Second.
Okay,
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kernscher?
Aye.
Okay. Takes us to item B, which is consideration and action regarding the purchase of an international MB 607 dump truck. Mr. Reed, talk about toys.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, Mayor and members of City Council. As part of the FY26 budget, Council approved the purchase of a new dump truck to replace our oldest that it's in our fleet right now. It's a 2005 model. Staff selected an international MB 607 dump truck that includes a dump body, snow plow, and sand spreader for snow operations. So you'll see it outfitted like in the picture. Using the Sourcewell contract, staff was able to negotiate a price of just under $160,000 under the budget of $200,000. Staff recommends City Council authorize the city manager to execute purchase orders for the international dump truck through the Sourcewell Cooperative Procurement Contract for $159,629.89. If you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you. Well, the other one was a 2005. I think we probably got our money's worth out of that one.
Yes,
Is
sir.
there any utility value to keeping it in inventory, or are you going to sell it?
We'll sell it.
I don't have any questions.
Yeah, no questions.
No questions.
No questions?
No questions, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
So that was easy. I move that City Council authorize the city manager to execute purchase orders for an international MV 607 dump truck through the Sourcewell Cooperative Procurement Contract for $159,629.89.
Second.
Okay.
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kernscher?
Aye.
Okay. Takes us to item C, which is consideration and action regarding proposed ordinance 25-15 to amend Chapter 7 Environmental Protection, changes to erosion and sediment control and stormwater management regulations of the City of Williamsburg. Ms. Shelton.
So several months ago, you adopted a long, ponderous, and confusing ordinance regarding stormwater and erosion and sediment control. We've been looking at that since you adopted it to try to make it less long, confusing, and ponderous, and easier to use. All of this is governed by state code, and so we have removed duplicative language from our ordinance, referenced the state code and the state regs at all points available to do that, to try to make it a little bit more user-friendly, and so we're requesting that you adopt those changes.
Thank you. I don't have any questions. Any
Questions?
Thank you. No questions.
Questions?
Okay. Is there a motion?
So I move that City Council adopt proposed ordinance 25-15.
Second.
Thank you. Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey?
Aye.
Mayor Pons?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent?
Aye.
Ms. Kernscher?
Aye.
Okay, item D is consideration and authorization for the city manager to sign a contract with the Johnson Incorporated, doing business as JMI, to develop a mobile app, design printed map, and continue community engagement for the African American Heritage Trail. Ms. DeWitt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of council. At the risk of standing between you and a beautiful afternoon, I thought I would take this time to give us a little bit of an update on where we are in the African American Heritage Trail before I ask you to take the specific action towards next steps. So you'll remember this is a 2-mile trail within downtown Williamsburg that hits several places of interest to interpret a story, as we say, that's not been told, the African American perspective and story in Williamsburg. We have a brilliant 6-member advisory committee that you appointed. Mr. Braxton is here, one of the members, who has made this project possible and worked with the descendant community and really making sure it resonates with the stories that they tell. So where we are, and you'll see the bottom bullet is grand opening in 2026. The hope is to open it Juneteenth of 2026. So aggressive timetable, as many projects in the city are on right now. So as of July 1st, we received the funds from the budget. Thank you very much, City Council. The memorial art, given the budget outlook, will be done later, but we still plan to build the platform that the art can be installed upon. So we're going through public procurement right now. We did an invitation for bids for the medallions. I'm going to show you a picture of those medallions in a moment. And Tectonics out of Richmond was a successful bidder, and they're under contract and starting to manufacture those medallions. They will be at each point of interest on the trail. They will be a flat horizontal medallion on the brick sidewalks. Another part that is the action we're asking you to take today is to continue our community engagement work and develop a map and an app, a digital app, signage, and a map for the trail. We have a recommendation for you today that I'll get to in a moment. We're also working with the city engineer on final architecture and engineering for the construction of the trail, and as soon as that's completed, we will do an invitation for bids for the construction of that trail. And another element is we're going to have breadcrumbs in between the medallions. And yes, it's like Hansel and Gretel had breadcrumbs to find their way through the woods. So this is to make sure the public can easily traverse the trail. And once those are designed, we'll do an invitation for bid to that. But now the exciting picture. So the advisory committee is inspired by the Compton Oak in Colonial Williamsburg. And so taking this design and thinking about the meaning of an oak tree with its roots and its sturdiness and its power, this is the medallion that's been designed. So a very stylized look at that Compton oak, but with its unique profile, the benches underneath, and then the roots, of course, that make it stand so tall and strong. And then the three themes of the narrative for the trail are on the bottom. You can see strength from faith, power from education, and resilience from community. And those were the stories that the African American community shared with us and the descendant community in the development of the narrative, which you approved last December. So I wanted to give you a look at how this will look in the real world. There's another angle. It'll have to give it its a sense of that sturdiness and permanence. You see it's surrounded by Georgia gray granite, which is the granite that Carlton Abbott used. So you see it throughout our library plaza. You see it throughout the historic area. William & Mary continues to use it throughout their properties with their donations of each class as it goes down the sunken garden. So it will blend very well in the physical environment of the city. So having showed you all that, I'll stay on that lovely photo. Today, we have finished the first part of public procurement for the development of the mobile app, and the printed map, and the signage, and the continued community engagement. And the advisory committee and staff recommend that JMI be hired to do that work. And it is greater than $100,000, so it requires action by City Council, but it is within the project's budget. So we're asking for that action today.
Well, good, thank you, Ms. DeWitt. Just as a reminder, JMI has been working on this project for, a number of years now, and part of community discussions, and have done a great job, I think, working with the committee, working with the community to gather information, and have been a good partner. So continuing that partnership with them, I think, makes good sense. I believe that they'll be able to deliver. You had mentioned that this project is coming in on budget. These funds have been allocated in our budget. We're not looking to take money from something, move money around.
No, sir. This is a budget in the capital improvement plan currently. And actually, of interest, the advisory committee did apply for a grant from the Virginia Museum of History and Culture for $75,000 to $100,000. So we fingers crossed that we'll be getting that grant. So we're still looking for other funding sources. And also, as a reminder, we do have a congressional Congressman Luria, it's been that long, it takes a while for these things to go through the process. We do have $327,000 from the federal government to help pay for the trail, and also $515,000 from the city's tourism fund. So it's been a combination of many sources of funds.
I just wanted to reassure everybody that these aren't new dollars that
Right.
we're somehow coming up with to make this project come to fruition. So with that, I'm very excited to be approving this if we get that far. But Mr. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Michelle. It seems it's been a long journey since that initial meeting at Quarter Path when all of this started, and So it's really exciting to start seeing it all come together. And I agree that having sit in on the meetings with JMI and the work that they did, engaging with the community and putting the narrative all together, they did a tremendous job. So they already have the background with this, so I think it's fitting that they be the ones that carry this portion of the project through. And just thanks to you and all of the committee members who worked so hard to get us to this point, and it'll be here, but Juneteenth, next 26th will be here before we know it. Thank you.
Ms. Grencheer?
Yes, thank you. I couldn't have said it better, so I won't. So thank you very much.
Ms. Ramsey?
And that goes for me also.
Well, thank you for the presentation, and it's great to see how close we are to everything being finished. The designs look great, so I'm excited for next year.
I'm
For a motion?
excited for construction to actually get started. So I move that City Council authorize the city manager to execute a contract for $297,865 to Johnson Incorporated, DBA JMI, to develop a mobile app, design a printed map, and continue community engagement for the African American Heritage Trail.
Second?
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernscher.
Aye.
Okay. Mr. Vice Mayor, do we have any closed session?
We do not.
All right. Would somebody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Ms. McKay?
Ms. Williams.
Aye.
Ms. Ramsey.
Aye.
Mayor Pons.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Dent.
Aye.
Ms. Kernscher.
Aye.
Thank you for coming. We're adjourned.